I literally titled the email with the Zoom link, Jonathan Green Stan Club meeting.
Hello and welcome to Read the Last Page,
A Yap Session
book club
with your two favorite long-distance best friends.
The book I read this month is Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green.
And since we finally read the last page, let's talk about it. Hello, B. How are you?
I'm good. As good as I can be since we're not together. We were supposed to be, but life.
Guys.
But yeah, I'm in new backdrop. I'm in my parents' home in my old bedroom, and there's like a... So this is like... There used to be like a fireplace here. Mm-hmm. And like the whole room is not brick, it's just this part, and
imagine like a full brick room.
Yeah. And this chair, like, my parents were gonna get rid of, and I was like, oh, hold on, let me do some measuring, and it fits right in this little nook, so I just feel so like cozy sitting here doing my podcast.
Yes, that would be like the best place, I think, to read. Mm-hmm. Like, actually, my dream in life is to have just a fireplace that doesn't work, just so I could like put books in it, because I feel like that's so chic. I'm like, yes, I love a fireplace.
Yeah, and it's like one of those big ones where it's like I'm fully sitting crisscross and there's still room, you know, like it's big. Perfect. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm in our hometown area because I'm choreographing for a show here. Mm-hmm. I think I mentioned it on the podcast before. But yeah, like it's like a contemporary modern show, and my choreography got picked to be showcased. So I've had 2 rehearsals so far. We have 2 more coming up, and my dancers are so amazing and talented, and I'm super happy with it already. And we have like 5, like almost like 4.5 more hours of rehearsal. So awesome. Like it's gonna look so good by showtime. So yeah, I'm excited.
I love that. I'm so excited for you. That's so great. That's so great. Have you been doing anything fun in our hometown lately?
A lot of like hanging out with my sisters and like my nephews that live here. I like went and read a book to one of my nephew's classes, like at school, which was so fun.
That's so cute.
They were so cute. And I saw like 3 of them. I saw like their basketball games. Like I've never been to any of my nieces or nephews' sports games. I've watched my nieces like gymnastics practice, but I've never been to like, you know, like a basketball game, and it was so cute. Like I just loved it. And yeah, like me and my sisters have also hung out, like, you know, like going to different stores we like and like playing games and stuff like that. So it's been nice, but I've like really been keeping busy with I was just telling you, but like cleaning out this bedroom here. Yeah. Just because like when I moved to New York, it was sort of like, okay, but how long is she gonna last there? Like, so my parents were like, don't worry, you can come back if you need, which is very, very kind of them. Yeah. But now it's like, okay, I'm going into my 3rd year, and it's like, you know, when people come to visit at my parents' house, like they usually stay in this bedroom down here. So it's like, okay, time to get rid of stuff. Like there's clothes I haven't worn since like high school, college, and there's just like a whole bunch of stuff that I just don't need. And there's a lot of stuff that I want to keep though. Like I have a drawer full of like all my old journals and stuff, and it's like I'm not throwing those away, but I'm also not going to pack them and bring them to my tiny apartment in New York. Sure. So I'm like organizing the stuff that I want to keep, because like my parents will let me keep it here, but I just need to have it organized and ordered so that it's like, okay, my stuff is here, but it's put away, you know? So it's kind of been really fun. My sister Mary came over one day. She like took off work for us to hang out, and we just spent the whole day like going through everything in my room. She was like so helpful. Because, you know, it's just like when you have another person with you, it's more enjoyable, you know? And she's like she's good at helping like motivate and like make decisions. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna go get the vacuum, you know. And she was like vacuuming every like hour basically, because it's like we're kicking up a lot of dust because I'm getting everything under my bed. And just like that was so kind of her to like spend our day hanging out, like helping
you clean. And,
and it was fun because we were just like chatting the whole day. So which is like that's what we would do anyways if we like went window shopping, you know. Yeah, it was great.
That's so nice. Well, yay, I'm glad. I'm so sad I couldn't be there. But I love that. My favorite activity when we were in the same town together is when I would just come over to your house and like you'd be like, hey, I'm gonna clean for 2 hours. So just like get comfy on the bed.
I love doing it. Yeah. I know. I was like thinking, oh, Danielle could look through all this stuff. But honestly, it's like the clothes I'm getting rid of, it's like they're so past. Yeah, you don't even.
Oh, sure. Like, they're like from like 2019.
Yeah. Kind of. It's just like nobody wants them, you know.
Okay, that's real.
Or you've probably like looked through them before, you know.
Oh, sure.
Because me and my sisters, like, we pass around clothes like, oh, I'm getting rid of this stuff, anybody want it? And then someone's like, oh yeah, that used to be mine, I'll take it back, you know. We just like throw our clothes in a circle, so it's like you've probably seen it all already.
Okay, real.
Yeah. But how are you doing?
I'm all right. I don't know if you can tell from my voice, audience people, but I sound kind of stuffy and gross. I got sick again, which you might be like, wait, you were sick 2 podcast episodes ago. I know, isn't that funny? But yeah, so I came down with a little cold, but what's nice is like it's going through me fast, which is good. Like the worst day was Wednesday. Yeah, we're Saturday. Yeah, so Wednesday, and then Thursday was pretty rough, and Friday was when I was supposed to see you, and I was like, I'm gonna get people sick, so I can't.
And you got that little niece.
I know.
It's like you don't want to get that baby sick.
What was so tough is that like my sister is also in town currently in Casey, and like 'cause she's meeting our niece for the first time, and so like her boyfriend and her are there, and I haven't seen them in a hot second, and like I wanted to see the baby again, and I couldn't see any of like, I'm like, all my favorite people are currently like congregating in KC, and I can't go because I don't want to get anyone sick, which sucks. But they FaceTimed me yesterday while they were with the baby, and I was like I was like, this is so mean. My big sister's like, she keeps saying I'm her favorite aunt. I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you don't stop that, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Anyway, but yeah, it's been fine though, because like really what's been nice is like I've started my second semester of grad school, and this semester has been a lot harder than the first one, and so I've had like no time to do anything, and you know, I was able to take off like 2 days of work and just like kind of like rest, and then like clean and like and actually vacuum my room. And like mop around the house. Important. Yeah, it made me feel so much better. So and I'm also in that's why I'm like situated in a new area, because like I'm like, hey, I just cleaned this living room.
We want to see it. It's cute.
My living room. Thank you.
I've never been there.
I know you haven't.
Is that crazy?
I know. This is probably like I think our cutest place. All the other ones, it's like, because like all the other ones are like, you know, like we were living like kind of crappy like student living places, other than our last place, but our last place just wasn't very cute. But this one's cute. This one's great. So anyway, okay, well, I think that's all that I want to talk about for me. Okay. Do you think we should get into our book club episode?
Yeah, we totally should.
Okay, cool. So let's see. What did we read this month? We read Everything's Tuberculosis by John Green.
We love John Green.
We love John Green. I know. I literally titled the email with the Zoom link, Jonathan Green Stan Club meeting. So I was like, when are we not talking about how much we love the Green brothers?
Right.
I feel like we have to get around to like eventually reading a Hank Green book so we can like spread the love equally.
Yeah, we should.
This is our second John Green book of the podcast.
Yeah.
And like I think we should make it a yearly thing. We just keep reading a Green brother book.
Yeah.
because they always hit for me personally. But yeah, okay. Do you want to maybe give a quick summary of what this is, or do you want me to?
Sure.
Okay.
So this is a nonfiction book about, well, it's about tuberculosis, and it's about sort of the ways that the disease has like affected our like culture and life and like humanity in general for the past like many years, like basically all of humanity, like at least like historic humanity, you know. I don't know about prehistoric, I don't know, but but and it kind of focuses mainly on a young boy named Henry, and who John met on a trip to Sierra Leone, and sort of his journey with having tuberculosis and trying to get treatment for something that is now, you know, basically entirely curable, but the cure and the access to medicine is not available everywhere. And so it's just like an interesting look at how, you know, a lot of us in like America, you know, might not think of it as being like a relevant thing anymore, but it is very relevant if you look globally. And yeah, I just think John, you know, you think of him more so as a fiction writer, I think. I mean, in the past, you know, few years he's written nonfiction, but I really like the way his storytelling voice comes through in this nonfiction work.
100%.
That's like the basic overview. It touches really on a lot of like the systematic things that are going wrong in how the world is dealing with the crisis, and but a few notes of hope and positivity, like things that have gotten better recently. Also some of the microbiology history, and like when we learned about germs, basically, which is it's so interesting to me to think about that, like, you know, a couple hundred years ago, like there was no concept of like a microbiome, which is like, it's just so second nature to us now. Like we just that's just part of life.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, it was just like this comprehensive view of a lot of different aspects of life that are affected by or are affecting tuberculosis, and told sort of through the lens of mainly one young boy named Henry.
Yeah, for sure. I really like that you brought in the story elements of it. I feel like I didn't know what this was going to be about before I came in, and a lot of times people would describe this book to me as like John Green is essentially explaining the importance or the cultural almost importance of tuberculosis, and how like basically the title is Everything is Tuberculosis, because you can point at almost anything and be like, yeah, that's here because of tuberculosis. Like a cowboy hat exists because of tuberculosis, right? Which is crazy. But like reading it, there's so much of like, I don't even know how to say this. Like there's just a real like human story, kind of like at the pulse of like what he's trying to do. And it's not like just like a medical history book. It's a book about a boy who John met and like kick-started this real feverish interest that he has about tuberculosis. It's like it's so good. It made me cry so many times because I was like, this is fantastically written, and like tuberculosis really is just like an awful disease, and like the time that we live in, it's just like he constantly reminds you in this book that like, hey, no one should be dying of tuberculosis, but yet people do, and why is that? And it's just like it's tough. But I also think I think he should write a book every year about like whatever he's hyper focusing on.
Yeah.
And just like release that, because I would read anything he has to say about anything. I think he has such a way with distilling complex or maybe hard to read about topics in a way that like make it very interesting and accessible for a broad audience, which is great. He is he's just like a very important writer of our time. And he really is. I love that he was just able to flip from like writing mostly YA fiction to writing, because he did this in the Anthropocene Reviewed.
Anthropocene.
I don't know how to say that word, so sorry, friends. Fun fact. But he did that in this book, and like, you know, Anthropocene, is that how's this pronounced?
Anthropocene.
Okay, cool. But like that is mostly a collection of essays, and this is obviously not that, so right, a bit different. But I think we should read the other book if we ever want to. Like, I would love to do that.
I own it now.
So. Own it? Wait, did you get it? Did you get it?
So my sister Mary, I don't know, she had it or she saw it at like a thrift store or something. I don't know. She was just like, anybody want this? I was like, yes, 100%, I do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think like there was so much information in this book, and I'm not really someone who really has a lot of interest or knowledge in like medical things. Like I never studied like, you know, I never was doing like anatomy or pre-med or like any of that stuff. Like, it's just like not really my desire to like learn about. Sometimes I get kind of squeamish, and so like having no knowledge besides for just like, you know, basic sort of common knowledge, I would say, I feel like I learned so much, and I was not confused ever. Like sometimes even like in the Mercury 13, like there were some things that were just like a little bit over my head. And I actually am really interested in like space and space flight, but some of the, you know, more specific things, it's just like, okay, I don't really understand what all this means, which like, it's fine. You can still read the book and understand, you know, the main points going on. But I feel like the way that John wrote this was like very, very informational without feeling like sort of textbooky or like just straight up a list of facts. But there were a lot of facts in there, you know? And so I feel like I was really able to learn. And there was so many numbers that were just like mind-boggling to read, you know, like just the number of deaths per year, or, you know, the percentages of like increase or decrease in deaths depending on XYZ. Like all of that was very, very necessary, I feel, to the overall point of writing this book. Like you need to see the facts, right? But he writes it like within this sort of human story. Like it was just like this really good blend of not just like a textbook of tuberculosis history and facts, and not just a story of this one boy Henry and his journey, but like a full rounded scope of like all of that plus all these other little things. Like I'm just amazed, which I know tons of people do this that write nonfiction or like write like when you're getting your PhD and you have to write like your thesis, and like there's so much research that goes into something and then synthesizing it all. Like I was just thinking about like him having, I don't know, like all this information, like post-it notes and like rearranging them on the wall, like to try to put all of this information in a way that makes sense and is like readable. And I just think he did such a good job. And I was fully interested the whole time because like I really cared about the few people that are mentioned really specifically, I really cared to know what happened to them in their journey. And I just was like, I felt very like, I need to know this stuff. Like, this is affecting, the world. And I feel like I need to be aware,
Yes, it's so good. I know I kind of mentioned this earlier, but the structure of the book is so good to me. Like, I'm obsessed with the way he did that, because he gives you a really interesting introduction to tuberculosis in that first chapter, where he is talking about how, hey, everything is connected to tuberculosis, which I think is just fascinating and just like a really interesting fun fact in a way. So I think that's like a really general way to get people in. And then he hooks you with the story of Henry, the boy who has tuberculosis that John meets in Sierra Leone, and like this hospital, Laka, I think is what it's called, which is like this very underfunded hospital that's trying its best to help as many patients as possible with limited resources. And John is like telling us the story about Henry and like showing us why the story of tuberculosis that he is writing matters. Like, because basically you're coming into this and you're like, okay, tuberculosis is basically a cured disease. Like, why are we writing a book about it?
Right.
And John is like, because I got interested in tuberculosis because I met a boy who changed my life and my perspective on it. And that's how we get introduced to it. And then we step away from Henry for a good chunk of the middle there. Yeah. And we're just learning about tuberculosis as a disease, which is also important for the end of the book, where we come back to Henry and we come back to all these other patients of tuberculosis, some who unfortunately don't get to be cured of it. And like, all of that is so important for that final end of the book, because it felt for me like so heartbreaking and like almost like a gut punch. But also John Green has this really fantastic way of writing where at his core he is just an optimist, which is so lovely. Like, he truly believes that like humanity will save us in the end, which is how I would love to also view things. And so you think that this book, if anyone out there is too scared to pick up this book because they have medical anxiety, or they don't like when people catastrophize, or maybe like fearmonger in a way, I was scared this was going to make me see things in the world that I'm like, this is going to make me spiral.
Oh, yeah.
And were some things, like, there are things that he mentions that I'm like, oh, yeah, we could have, like, a super spreader TB, like, also, like, sweep across the nation, or, like, our nation, the world, etc. At some point. Like, that is a possibility. It's not high. It's not, like, a super likely, but it is a possibility.
Right.
So there are scary things like that he mentions, but at the end of the day, John Green has such a good way of being like, okay, but, like, calm down. Because like this is what could happen. Like, we have like he just has such a great way of, I think, recentering the conversation away from what's scary about just like living in the world to being like, but if we come together and if we actually put the effort into fixing things can get fixed. Yeah. It makes you feel less like you're stuck in place, like from fear, and more like, oh, I want to act on this. I want to help this. I want to learn about this. Yeah. Which I think is so beautiful.
I think also, like, hearing you say that, it makes a lot of sense, because he even says in the book, and if you like follow John Green at all and like know him at all, he's talks a lot about like he has, very severe like obsessive compulsive thoughts, and that has really that has affected his life in many ways. And I think in his adult life it seems like he's learned how to cope with it, but it obviously still affects him. And I think I've heard him, because I listen to Dear Hank and John, the podcast, which like I am like hundreds of episodes behind like where they're posting now. Like, I'm many years behind, but like I've heard him talk about like some of the things that he wrote in the book, which this book came out way after, like many years after these things that he's been saying on the podcast, of like, he feels uncomfortable knowing that like half of his like cells in his body are like, bacteria that aren't really him, and like stuff like that. And he's like, he's very concerned about like the germs and this and that. And it's like, and we read Turtles All the Way Down a couple years ago on the podcast, and it's like that's influenced by his own
OCD,
his own personal life. And I think like having someone like that be the one to research this and write this book for the mass, like you can tell that he has taken great care in like how he's presenting things, and also like he's thought very deeply about like his feelings on the facts, and like considering like the fact for the fact, and also the feelings that come from knowing these like scary things. Like he just is like you were just saying, like, oh, if it would come across like like cause someone a panic, and it's like, well, these things probably did cause John Green some panic. And so he like, but in doing the research, he like took the time to like sit with it, think about it, find the right way to write about it that wasn't like
scary
and oh my gosh, we're all everything's doomed.
It's so true. I thought it was so interesting that like the two books we decided to read for this book club are this one and then Turtles, because like Turtles All the Way Down is like so much about like medical anxiety, and like the main character Asa is like really scared of like herself and her body, and like I know that John Green said that he had to write that book for his younger self who didn't know how to process all those emotions. And I love thinking about like John Green writing books for himself, but then also because he has that awareness where he's like, if this is something that like freaks me out and I need to be calmed down about, like maybe there are other people out there who also need that. And I just love what he's doing. I don't think there are many people out there who are like trying to comfort the masses in a way, you know what I mean? Like it feels like we're living in a really scary time, and there's a lot of people who are just deciding to like like fearmonger, just like feel like we're doomed, all that kind of stuff. And like John Green is one of the few people out there who have like a fairly large platform who I feel like is trying really hard to be like, no, like humanity is beautiful, and like this is a gift of life that we're living. And I don't know, I just found it really beautiful, even though it's like there are really tough subjects that are discussed in this book. Like I said, I think John Green is just like really good at like knowing when to like place a band-aid kind of over
and also think about him like being having this sort of medical obsessive like OCD thoughts for all his life, and now as he's probably like middle-aged man, like now he's like writing a book about medical information. Like that's just for himself, like that's huge, an accomplishment. Like and I think also in the book as a whole, like I really liked that he called things out for what they were, like the companies like Johnson and Johnson, like he didn't shy away from saying like they just wanted to charge more because they wanted to have the monopoly and also things like racial discrimination in the way that some of the doctors were like, oh well, those people in those countries, like they're not, basically saying like they're not at the intelligence level for it to matter if we give them care. And it's like those things are like not okay. And I liked that he didn't beat around the bush with that. He said it straight out. And also at the same time, where there were some areas of like possible gray area of like, for example, Henry's father like takes him out of the hospital because he's like, he doesn't trust the doctors and he blah blah blah. And John's like, you know, it can be pretty easy for us to think like, well, he really did the wrong thing and that was really bad of him. And John's like, yeah, like it probably would have been better for Henry to stay, but think about from his father's perspective. The hospital has not given proper care or been able to give proper care. Why would he have trust in this system more so than this one over here when, you know, I think he did a really good job of like reminding us to be empathetic to the real people who, you know, because for us with hindsight, it's like, well, you should have done this, you should have done that, right? But when you're in that moment and it's your child, you don't know how to care for this, like, you know, maybe there is a right or wrong, but like as a person, you know, we're always gonna be flawed and we can't see the whole scope. I just really appreciated his directness, but then also at the right moments being like, but don't forget that this is probably how they're feeling in that moment, and that is probably justified that they felt like that, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, he does such a great job at like reading this. I was like, John Green does not play. I love that man. But like genuinely, like, yeah, he does such a great job again of like, he's consistently telling us what the problem is and how to fix it, and like making sure because he understands that probably the majority of his audience are going to be like, you know, like people like from more privileged countries like the United States who like tuberculosis is not something we have to worry about. And it's just interesting, like it's like really like, yeah, tuberculosis exists still because of like racism, classism, and capitalistic greed. And it's like John Green does not shy away from pointing that out and calling out the correct people, and then also reminding his readers to consistently check your privilege and like understand how to fix this problem. Like it's like, this should not be an issue. 0 people should be dying from tuberculosis, and yet people still do. And it should make you angry when you're reading the book. And I feel like he does a really good job at reminding us why this is an issue and how to fix it. And yeah, I just think it's great. Like it's really like he really was able to like condense this huge broad global issue into like 200 pages of like, here's the problem, I'm going to teach you about a lot of things, you're going to feel a lot of things, and I'm going to tell you how to fix it. And like I just think a real masterclass in how to, you know, write a nonfiction book like this.
And I think like he says something like blah 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 is not why I care so much. I care so much because I met Henry. And I think about like, you know, me and who I am right now in my life. Like I don't have the means to like go to Sierra Leone or a place like that and like do the work that John Green was doing. You know, he has, you know, this unique position where, you know, he has fame from his books and he has influence, and so like that's something he can do. And so I think about like, well, what is like what I can do, you know? And I think when he said like I care because I met Henry, like, you know, we as individual people can't like solve every issue everywhere, but like what I thought about is like, okay, who are the people that are like in my community or in my proximity that like I can, you know, listen to, hear their stories, you know, like donate here and there, like cuz I might not ever be in proximity of like Sierra Leone or a place like that. Like I just probably won't. But like, you know, I think about like in New York, like there's so many people that, you know, need help in my community, you know, and it's like that's sort of like what I was feeling like a call to action from his book is like find the people around you that you know, are crossing paths with, you know, that you can in one way or another, like, you know, add value or joy or monetary assistance or like whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And I just also really, you were kind of saying this earlier, but like, we just love the Green brothers, and like I admire John Green and Hank Green so much, like the work that they do. They've created this platform for themselves of like through YouTube and their books and their blah blah blah, and then it's like they're like, okay, well, what can we do to help the world, basically?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that, not only like John going to Sierra Leone and, you know, doing all that not only helped immediately like those people right there, but then like coming back and comprehensively researching and then giving that information to us as the masses. Like, you know, now I feel very much more informed and aware, and like, you know, I cared before, but it's like I can care more intentionally now.
Sure,
like about a topic like this, you know?
For sure. It's also like, again, kind of like you were saying earlier, I don't think I would have ever done as much research as this book did into anything, let alone tuberculosis. And so it's like the idea that like John Green made this, like, again, it's a very quick read. It's like 200 pages or something. This very quick read that is so good at describing such a complex issue that is currently like where we're at in the world. I think it's so great. I'm so happy that we decided to read it. I don't know if I would have picked it up really outside the book club because, again, I was scared. But like, it's such a good informative read. I really feel like everyone should read it.
And I feel like I always had it in the back of my mind just because I'm like, oh, it's John Green, and I feel like that would be like a good thing to read. Like, I'm sure there's some good information, and I hadn't really thought about it so much of like being worried if it would make me feel like anxiety, but more so like I feel like it's just I was worried it would be more like dry facts that I wouldn't really have. I didn't really know if I was going to be able to like conceptualize it and like, you know, but he, again, just
John Green, so.
Incredible job. Like, so like just so much true information, and like right next to real human stories. Like,
it's fantastic.
Everybody else that writes like about topics like this, use this as your
your resource, your reference, for real. Like, actually top tier. Okay, I know this is kind of hard because we've talked about before, it's kind of hard to be, this is our non-spoiler section and then this is our spoiler section for like non-fiction books, but like do we want to get into more spoiler thoughts, like quotes? I wasn't even moments?
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't even thinking about that. You're so right.
I don't think we've like spoiled anything, but like, you know.
But the point is, like, I highly, highly recommend this book. I learned a lot. I genuinely enjoyed reading it in the sense that I felt like I was really learning and really, you know, gaining more empathy, and I was curious about all this stuff, how it's like, you know, I don't think about it as affecting my life, but it is affecting my life in some ways, and you know, it's also affecting a lot of other people in really dramatic ways that I feel better for being aware. And it wasn't hard to read. Like, it wasn't so dense that it was like over your head in any way. Like, John really makes it clear and non-mystified. So yeah, I really recommend.
Yes, I agree. I think like another thing about John Green is like I think he does such a good job at everything that B just said, but also not ever talking down to his audience. Like he really trusts his readers to understand the concepts that he's talking about, even when he's speaking in a more intellectual or academic voice. I think he just does such a good job at like blending the two of like like really distilling information, but also never sacrificing the intellectual conversation that these topics merit. You know what I mean? So I feel like this was just fabulously done. Really, this is probably going to be one of my favorite reads of this year, truly. Just incredible work by John Green. I now am so excited to read any other nonfiction books that he decides to do in the future. I feel like he's definitely kind of like switching lanes a little bit from like his past work and doing something new. And like I said, I would read any book he wants to write about anything he is hyper fixated on, because I think he just is so intent on doing the work and writing something of value that does not waste anyone's time, that really is there to like speak a specific message into the world. And just great stuff, guys. Highly recommend, truly.
So if you haven't read it, go pick it up. And it's probably super backed up at your local library. It was like I was like hundreds of people deep at New York, and then at the library here actually all the copies were like checked out and the hold list was kind of long, except for the large print version.
I was gonna say that's huge.
I was like, all right, well, I don't care, I'll read large print, sure. So mine was actually like 235 pages or something. Because it was the bigger print. So if you want it sooner, I would recommend seeing if your library has large print, because I guess people don't put it on hold as much.
It's a really good point. Or you could also use what I did was I used my Libby app, and I had it requested in 2 different libraries. And so at my local library, I got it like immediately, and then I only have those for 3 weeks. So my hold ran out because we were kind of putting off this episode. But then I had it at my parents, my hometown library, and it came in yesterday, and I was like, oh, back on it, so I can get all my annotations back. So #we love the Libby app.
Perfect.
All right, let's get into spoilers. Okay, so I feel like low-key, there were so many, I wrote down so many quotes from this. I feel like there were like 1,000 different moments in this book where I was like, oh, that's a thesis statement, that's a thesis statement, maybe that's a thesis statement. I feel like, at the beginning, he writes, I feel like there's gonna be so many things that we're just gonna like keep talking about, because like I said, this book just like really hones in on like a couple different messages that are really important. But during the beginning, there's a quote that he says, we are powerful enough to light the world at night, to artificially refrigerate food, to leave Earth's atmosphere and orbit it from outer space, but we cannot save those we love from suffering. This is the story of human history as I understand it, the story of an organism that can do so much but cannot do what it wants most. Like, I felt like, for me, I was like, this feels like a real thesis statement of the book for me, because I mean, obviously we hyper focus on this one specific disease, tuberculosis, and it just so happens to be like one of the deadliest diseases in our history, that we've also miraculously been able to cure, but still like impacts so many different people. I think that like this book could have literally been about any disease. Like, we could have written this book about COVID. It could have been about scarlet fever. It could have been about the plague, like anything. But like the main takeaway is that and this is what's like scared me, but like also like because it's John Green, like it felt comforting in a way, but like it's part of human existence to like live and love and die. Like, he also talks about how like we all say we want to live in a natural world. We all want to feel comforted when we hear that people die naturally. But what does it mean to like live in a natural world? It means to not have medication, essentially, to save people. Like, we have basically allowed people to live to be 100 years old, which is not natural. And so it is technically the natural way of things for people to die from suffering. And for me, I think reading that was such a weird like cushion to like the harsh realities, I think, of like both like life and the topics that are addressed in this book, because he's saying like that really hard, difficult thing out loud, and he's like, everyone deals with this, so like let's talk about what happens next. And I feel like that's what this whole book is. Like, it's really based on the idea of like human existence is suffering, and like what do we do about it. And yeah, and I just felt like that was such an interesting way to view the topic of tuberculosis. Like I said, like, I mean, like we've been talking about, the idea of introducing Henry immediately into this book and like having really the story be about Henry is so crucial to actually walking away from this book with like as like if you've been called to action on something. Like I think if it wasn't about Henry, this book would not be as powerful. And so I just love that that's where John Green starts this book, and like really what that you can tell that that's where this story starts, like from a real understanding of like what it is to be human, you know.
Sorry, I was reading my notes. If my sounded not interested, I was interested.
It's like I just like didn't know how to like put a period on this. On my point.
So we can just cut it. There was something I was gonna say though that was right along with that. They were taking a risk by it was like Dr. Jerome, that's how I said his name. He was like advocating for getting the medicine, like whatever different things that Henry needed, because he was so late, or not so late in the game, but his tuberculosis was so resistant to so many other things that it was like he really needed like this mixture of this and this and that. And but they weren't really so keen on like dishing that out. But this doctor was like, I would say almost like not like staking his reputation, but like he was like, no, but I need you to send me this. And they were like, everyone's fingers crossed that it actually works, because if it didn't work, then it was gonna be in favor of like, oh well, this is why we shouldn't, you know, do personalized requests for every single patient. But if it did work, then it was going to be really, really good for the people of those like less affluent areas where they were getting, you know, one size fits all basically treatment. They were going to see that a personalized approach is better in the long run. And okay, so this is like maybe a little convoluted, but it was making me think about text to text. It was making me think about the Hunger Games trilogy. And like, so when you read the Hunger Games, or at least when I read the Hunger Games, it's like, you know, you feel very on the side of like the rebels and Katniss and everything, and like that, you know, they need to fight back. And they were, you know, taking a risk doing XYZ, having Katniss be the face of their movement. And, you know, they all the time were putting things on the line. And, like, if it didn't go in their favor, then it was going to really push the oppressed further into oppression. But that glimmer of hope that it would turn in their favor was like what they needed. And so like when you're reading fiction and it, you know, dystopian fiction, it's like, okay, that's not really so applicable like in the exact sense, like, you know, we're not in a, you know, a literal like war in our country. But I was thinking, I always like, okay, I just love the Hunger Games, so I think about it a lot. And, you know, I always think like, well, how would I like implement sort of like Katniss's bravery and like her her fight, you know, like,
oh sure,
in my life, because I'm not really in a situation like that, but I you know, want to be more, you know, not like outspoken, but more like just doing more. And so I always think, like, how is this applicable or relatable in our real life? And when I was reading that part, getting back to this book, like, Dr. Jiram is like, you know, they really want to take this risk by asking and sort of demanding that they send this stuff, but if it doesn't go in their favor, they're going to be in a worse place than they were. But if it does go in their favor, like, it's going to be so much better. And I just think, like, people like that are like the real life heroes, like Katnisses, or like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, those decisions, which might not seem as, like, you know, glamorous drama as, like, going into the Hunger Games and, you know, all that kind of stuff, but it's like, those are real life things where people are doing something risky that they know, like, this is what they have to do for the better of, you know, the people around them, and that's them, like, being a hero and standing up for what they, you know should be happening, and, like, fighting for the rights and the health care and the safety and the whatever of, you know, the people that they're administering healthcare to. I don't know. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's just really what I was thinking about. I was like, this is the type of thing where, like, somebody in real life is being the Mockingjay in a way. I know it sounds kind of silly, but, like, doing something that's like that had huge not repercussions, because I feel like that's like a negative connotation, but like huge
like after effects.
In
like
a
waves.
Good way.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's so true. When you really kind of break it down, and obviously, like you said, this book is not showing, like, the fight against tuberculosis in Sierra Leone to be, like, as, you know, huge as the Hunger Games, but, like, it is, like, really, when you break it down, you do think of it, you're like, it is an act of resistance every day that people like, they are on the front lines of this kind of revolution where they're trying their best to bring attention to tuberculosis in underfunded countries and places like Sierra Leone. And it's like, this hospital that they work at, like, for parts of the day, they don't even have electricity. And it's like, John Green talks about how like a year before he wrote this book, he stepped on a nail in his backyard, and he's like, all he had to do the next day was, like, get up and, like, go get a shot to make sure that, like, he didn't get tetanus or something. And it's like, he's breaking down all of these things where he's like, but if you think about it, if I didn't have like a clinic 5 minutes away from me that I could get in my car and drive to, that has, like, 24/7 electricity, so that way we can keep these shots and this medication refrigerated, if we didn't have doctors on staff, if there wasn't enough staff that, like, I could get in immediately, all this stuff has to happen in order for him to just be treated for a nail in his foot. And it's like, now when you really zoom out, it's like the fight against tuberculosis is so huge and, like, an ongoing battle every day. And it's like, you know, the doctor who we follow, he moves from a completely different part of the world. He doesn't even speak the language that the people in Sierra Leone speak, and so he can't really even effectively communicate all the time with his patients. And, like, Henry's father even, and, like, Henry's father's sitting there, like, threatening him because he's so upset and, like, scared about his boy, and, like, this doctor's trying his best to, like, communicate that the best thing for Henry is to stay in the hospital and not take him out, even though it feels like that is what, you know, the dad thinks should happen. It's like all these little things are, like, maybe in a grander scale don't seem as huge, but, like, it is like these doctors in these places are, like, they are kind of like being the first waves in something that can truly change how tuberculosis is treated in different parts of the world. And it's like, yeah, like the first flap of like the butterfly wing, almost like the ripple effect of it all. And you're so right though, like it really does like put it into perspective that like this is a revolution in and of itself that we should be focusing our attention on, and that there are people who are really every day on the front lines putting in the work and like making change.
You found the words that I wanted, like revolution. Like that's what I was trying to find. So thank you for that, because it's like it's like like it's real, it's very real.
Oh sure, for sure. Yes.
Which like, because when I read fiction, I'm like, oh, it's fiction, but I'm like, but it's real still.
And it really does also then put into context why fiction matters. Sorry, like I know, like going a little bit away from tuberculosis, but it's like the idea that like for the most part, and knock on wood because we never know, but like we're not going to be put in a competition where we pit kids against each other to kill each other for the Hunger Games. But like the reason why the Hunger Games exists is because the fight against tuberculosis exists. You know what I mean? And it could be anything, but like this is just one small example of like why writing the Hunger Games is important, because when you break it down and apply the meanings of the Hunger Games to different things, it's teaching us something. And like that's why fiction matters, and that's why nonfiction, like just reading and being aware of the world, it matters. It all makes sense and all comes together. Also,
one more thing about the Hunger Games.
Sure.
But he was talking about how like coughing up blood, like we see that in like cinema all the time, and I've never known that specifically came from like that's what happens to people with tuberculosis. But it's like you just know when you see that on screen, like someone is ailing and dying.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, they said like, oh, when you see that, they pull like their handkerchief away full of blood in a movie, like what that means. And I was like, wait, I really do see that. You do see that all the time. I hadn't even thought, because again, everything is tuberculosis. Really, like it's all related.
The only reason why I truly know about like consumption and tuberculosis is because of Moulin Rouge, and I'm sure I would have figured out eventually, but like it was my favorite movie as a child, and like the main character, spoiler alert, in Moulin Rouge has tuberculosis, and like like she's like coughing into like into like a napkin, and it's coming away with blood, and I was like, what is that? And my mom's like, that means she's dying. And like it's like like genuinely, like it's so interesting to think, like I've known that for a majority of my life, and it's like you're so right, everything is tuberculosis. Like hashtag John Green is so right. What a perfect title of the book, by the way.
And is it the woman that is sick with that in the movie in
Moulin Rouge?
And like, isn't she like so glamorous and beautiful?
Yes.
And it's like, that is so indicative of the time where they were, to be beautiful and poet and wasting away. And I was thinking, in that Taylor Swift song, she says, take me to the lakes where all the poets went to die.
Exactly.
It's everywhere.
Exactly. No, isn't that so fascinating, the way that he talks about how we glamorized illnesses? And it's like it is all to do with, again, like it comes back to the conversation about classism and racism, and how that deeply impacts where we stand currently with tuberculosis. But I was just like, that's so interesting. Like we do have such a long history of like romanticizing illness because we want to like make it seem glamorous, and it's like tuberculosis just so happens to like make you thin and like give you this flushed look, and everyone's like, oh, and I'm like so like sickly and like and like gorgeous, and it's just like, well, you're dying, and like we're only making it seem classy because again you are of high class, and like but like it's like if someone of lower class had tuberculosis, they would view that as dirty, or like whatever ugly word you want to apply.
It's so interesting. It was beautiful and glamorous until they learned, and they're like, oh, well, only like white high class people would have this because we're like we're just so artsy on the inside. And then as soon as they learn the science, they're like, oh, well, actually it's affecting the poorer countries because they're poor. It's like, but and I thought about that too, like that disconnect. As soon as more information is learned, the whole perspective changes. Because I was thinking about when it was like like pretty prevalent in the US, and they weren't really sure how to treat it correctly. They were put in the I might say this word wrong, the sanitariums, is that what they were called?
Yeah.
And they were literally there to like sit in the sun and like not do anything. Like their instructions to get well were to rest and do as little as possible, like exert as little as possible. Then once they, you know, learn, you know, more about the actual medical science of it all, and they realize like that's not really, now suddenly it's like the people in Sierra Leone, where they have to travel 2 hours every single day, 2 hours there and 2 hours back. Some of them like walking to like, I think Henry or someone else, I can't remember, like started walking to a different hospital that had like better like medicine available, walking. And it's like, wasn't it just a little while ago that like when it was in the US everyone was supposed to lay around and not move, but now when it's like in this other country,
yes, like you have to put in the effort to go get medicine,
you have to walk miles, you know.
Oh my god,
and it's
crazy.
Like you know, it has to do kind of with, they realize that laying around all day wasn't really gonna cure, but at the same time, whether that's the cure or not, like you're a sick you know, person who's having trouble breathing. You shouldn't be walking miles.
For sure. Yeah, there was another thing too that I was thinking of, because John Green really, you know, kind of applies the glamorization of like tuberculosis in modern day terms quite well, where he's like talking about how like depression is often romanticized and glamorized. Like we think of artists who you know are depressed writing books basically like while being suicidal, and like we're like wow, but like oh that like that grief and torment or something about it that's so appealing. And it's like, it does seem like we're currently in an age where a lot of people want to like stick themselves with like these labels of like being mentally unwell. And it's like, because it is in a way interesting to like, I guess the human mind to kind of be divergent in certain ways. However, it's like, then specifically with depression, I'm thinking, it's like, yeah, everyone wants to be depressed. We're like, oh, I can't get out of bed. Oh, I'm like writing all these sad thoughts and posting them online, all that stuff. But then the second someone's like, oh, like I haven't brushed my teeth in a week because I can't like get up the energy to do it, everyone's like, okay, like literally like that is not cute. That's not okay. La la la. And it's because like we're associating it with like this like lesser than kind of mindset, and it's like really when you think about it, that also too is baked into like this classism that we view illness through, like that classist ideology kind of. It's just like so interesting. Like it's like, yes, I think in so many ways tuberculosis really did set like this weird precedent in how we like kind of like talk about and like view illness of any kind, not just like physical illness but also like mental. It's so interesting.
Yes, this is going along with what you said, which for me it's page like 71, 72, but that's in the large print version, so I don't know what it is on the regular one. But he's talking about the romanticization of the illness, and he says, this is precisely what I mean when I say that romanticization is not a kind or generous way of treating the ill, because I think he's talking about like OCD.
His OCD.
He says, I'm an author, and I for one am deeply offended by the notion that my waywardness, peevishness, I can't even say this, irritability, misanthropy, and murky passions are caused by a derangement of bodily health. But then I wrote this down because I said like he's so funny, because he says, even as I am impressed by 19th century magazine's ability to absolutely nail my personality, like like I don't know. But yeah, it's like it's not helpful. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, and also what's bad for the goose is bad for the gander, you know?
What's good for the goose is literally. No, true. And it's also like he really does kind of it's such an interesting line in which like I don't even know where this point is going to go, by the way, but I'm just thinking out loud here. But like, it's so interesting that line we walk where it's like, you know, we want to somehow destigmatize illness of any sorts,
right?
But also like we don't want to go as far as to romanticize and glamorize it. And it's like there is like this weird middle ground that I think is just so hard for us as a society to reach.
Yeah,
I'm like, are we even close to figuring out how to not do either of those? I don't know. It feels like a constant struggle.
Yeah,
but
it definitely is. Also, sorry, I'm rearranging my mic.
No,
also, I want to point out just one more funny thing.
Yeah.
So, in one of John Green's books, it's gotta be like Looking for Alaska or like An Abundance of Catherines or something. Mm-hmm. He uses the word deadpan a million bajillion times.
I think that's Looking for Alaska.
And he said that like after that, like I'm pretty sure his editor or somebody told him like you need to like not use this word so much, but he's like no like I like it, and so they're like okay. But then like years later he like read it again and he was like, oh my gosh, like this is like too much. So he has said that now as like an inner joke, like to himself and to, you know, his readers, like he always uses that word at least once in his books. And I didn't know if it would carry into the nonfiction, but on my page 75, which I don't know what that page is for everybody else, but he says he deadpanned that in 1823 and 1824 it was the fashion to suffer from the lungs, blah 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 blah. But he even put it in this one, and I was just like, he's too good.
That man, he's got a pen. He's got that pen.
He's silly.
I know. I love it. You know what? I think I kind of want to talk about, because we're talking about his other books.
Okay. I
kind of want to talk about his there's a point that I loved so much. It's kind of toward the end. Mm-hmm. Where is it? Oh my gosh. Okay, he's talking about this young woman. This is my favorite part of the book. So he mentions this young girl. I think her name is like Shreya, I believe is how you pronounce it. Who when he introduces her, she is suffering from tuberculosis and she ultimately ends up passing away from the disease. Mm-hmm. And he talks about her relationship with his book, The Fault in Our Stars. Oh my gosh. And like, it's so good. Like she finds a lot of comfort in The Fault in Our Stars because it's a book about a girl who has cancer that ultimately like metastasizes into her lungs and causes her to need to like breathe through a tube. I don't know what the actual word is for that medical.
It's something like canalus or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, she just has a hard time breathing, which obviously shares, like, that's exactly how tuberculosis is too. It really depletes your lungs. And so when she passes away, John Green's talking about how she was in the middle of rereading one of his books. And like, this is truly what I think the real thesis moment of this book is, like why this book matters and why also I think John Green as an author just really matters, and why I love that he has written so many monumental works, I think, for especially our generation. Yeah. But continues to like make stuff that deeply impacts me. I want to quote this. It's kind of long, but it's on page 133 for me, which by the way, I had my Kindle, so I don't know what that is for anyone else. But anyway, he says, when you write a novel, you are alone in it. I wrote that book alone, sitting in airports and coffee shops and lying in bed. But when writing, there is always, for me, a hope that one day I will not be alone, not in this work and not in the world. It is a bit like that old children's pool game, Marco Polo, where one person closes their eyes and swims around the pool trying to tag someone else. Writing like that is for me. I'm typing Marco, Marco, Marco for years. And then finally the work is finished and someone reads it and says Polo. And here's Shreya saying Polo to me from across the Great Divide. But she is also saying Marco. She is also telling me to hear her voice and answer her call. People often ask me why I'm obsessed with tuberculosis. I'm a novelist, not a historian of medicine. But I hear Shreya and Henry and so many others calling to me, Marco, Marco, Marco. It's like, it's so fantastic the way he is able to like really cement why the book, like, and obviously he's not saying that like this book should matter, like I don't think he's like trying to tell his audience that like this is the most important book you're going to read in your life or something, but like,
right.
there is something about the way that like he wants to make it clear why this conversation feels important to him, and like the idea that we are always in conversation with the authors of the books we read. Like, not only are they talking to us, but we're talking to them, and like I think it's just such an important way to like really, you know, dissect why like stuff like this matters. Like it's like it just feels like the writing matters, the importance of really listening to people around you, like the people we're talking about in this book, like all of it matters. And it like maybe for John Green didn't feel so huge like to write a book about tuberculosis, because at the end of the day, is this getting the children who need help in Sierra Leone like the medicine they need? I don't know, but like it is like kind of how we were talking about, like one small footstep to hopefully solving the problem,
right? And
I loved it. Like I just loved it, like just so much of what we're talking about in this episode. But like he has such a way with like bringing out the humanity in such awful things, and like it was so sad to read that, but also just like I think so beautiful to see just like how he feels so connected with his past works. And also, if you're a fan of John Green and you're reading this, and like I read The Fault in Our Stars when I was like 14, it had a profound impact on me, and it's like another way to also just like completely humanize these patients of tuberculosis. And it's just like, yes, I was too once a young girl reading The Fault in Our Stars and finding ways in to connect with the characters. And it's just like in another life, me and Shreya, our lives could be swapped, and it's just like that really is like making her story feel so impactful and important and connected to my own. Another way in which everything is tuberculosis.
Because it's like, you know, he wrote that book many years ago, and then it's like, you know, this girl feels seen by his book, and then in John Green seeing her, he like, she's like, part of her story is tuberculosis, and him researching and understanding that more is him seeing her more, you know. It's just like, it's like a positive, you know, feedback loop of like understanding each other better. And it's just so good. I am just so glad that we read this.
Me too. It feels like I genuinely think it's gonna like stick with me for so long. Well, we can maybe talk about the ending a little bit.
I said this ending is perfect, and also Henry calling him dad is so sweet. Like, I love that.
I'm gonna cry about him and
like
Henry.
John has two Henrys, you know,
right? And they're like, what did they say? They call each other their namesakes.
It's just so sweet.
I'm gonna cry. No, and it's like, it really does go back to what we were talking about too. I think this ending is so perfect because John Green is an optimist, and it's like he's not gonna leave us feeling dreadful about this, because like when you think about it, the circumstances we're currently in with tuberculosis is like a disease exists that shouldn't exist because we are still living in societies that are deeply infected with racist values, classist values, and capitalistic greed. But also he's like, but the good news is there is a cure. Like, we have a cure and we have the resources to fix this. And like the final line of this book is, we must also address the root of tuberculosis, which is injustice. In a world where everyone can eat and access healthcare and be treated humanely, tuberculosis has no chance. Ultimately, we are the cause. We must also be the cure. Like literally, like it's like, what a call to action. It's so fantastic to end this book on that, because again, it doesn't make you feel like struck down in fear. It makes you feel like we have a chance to overcome it. And because we read this book, we ourselves as readers are one step closer to figuring it out and helping as much as we can. It's great.
It's like John going there, Dr. Jairam, like those people like that, like they are, you know, making those first steps. And was it Shira or someone else like sued Johnson and Johnson to not be allowed to like keep the patent, which in turn would keep the price really high.
Yes.
And it was either the same person or someone else said like, you know, they like knew that what they were doing, it might be too late for them, but they're like, but they wanted their suffering to matter for like the rest of the people. And it's like all these people that are making these choices, that are in the places where they can make these choices and they're choosing to, it's like, oh, like if we have enough people, you know, making the choice to do the hard thing that's better for so many people in the long run, like, you know, things can and will get better.
Yeah, exactly. It's so interesting to be confronted with a problem that exists that like we kind of have all the answers to. It's just like we just have to figure it out. In a way, it's like, because that is kind of like really upsetting, but in a way it is, like John Green says, a bit hopeful, because it's like we really can fix this quite relatively soon. And so it's just like also another crazy number. It's just like we have not worked on but newer medicine for tuberculosis in like 40 something years.
Yeah.
I'm like, because we just haven't been putting the resources towards it because we don't find it as important. But then it's like when COVID really, you know, obviously swept through the world, like we immediately, you know, took action there. And it's like, if we were to put the same exact efforts into tuberculosis, we can also make the numbers go down again. Because it's like, I think COVID and tuberculosis are currently, at least in 2023, they were rivaling each other as like the most deadly disease. And so it's like, I think it's just interesting. Like, it's like really, like we really do have all the resources that we can to fix this. And so,
and then you think about like that sentiment bigger. It's like, you know, you always hear about like there's plenty of food for the whole world, there's plenty of clothing for the whole world. It's just, he kept saying in the book, like the disease is where the cure isn't and the cure is where the disease isn't. And it's like, that's how I feel about like, you know, those resources like food and clothing. It's like the excess food and clothing is not where, you know, the hungry unclothed people always are, and the hungry and unclothed people aren't where the excess. And it's like there's enough for everybody. We just don't, the world at large hasn't come together for a system of like, you know, how to, you know, like get people that need things, the things that they need. Instead we just throw stuff away here. And it's like, you know, it's like tuberculosis is one of the many things where it's like the answer or the cure or the resources are there, but how can we, you know, get them out to where it needs to be, you know? Exactly.
I just like overall just a really interesting conversation, and like a really interesting conversation to read and learn about if you come from, like we were talking about, a more privileged country in which like tuberculosis does not impact the United States per se, like where we live. And so it's like, I think it was really good for me personally, as somebody who lives in the United States, who probably will never encounter an issue of tuberculosis in my lifetime, to learn about how this is still impacting other places in the world.
And nice to read with somebody and have someone to like discuss it with. I feel like this was more meaningful to have someone to immediately be able to talk to about it than just like reading out on my own. Still would have been definitely worthwhile, but it was nice to be able to finish it and then get to talk to you about it right after. So I agree. And I'm glad that we both really enjoyed it. Like,
John Green. Am I ever gonna dislike a book that he writes? Probably not.
Nah. And hey, if any of you guys read it and you want to discuss, you can always email us.
Yes, actually, please do.
Read the last page, bookclub@gmail.com.
Let us know if you should read his other book that I can't say the title of because I forgot how to say it again.
The Anthropocene Review.
Yes, or like, should we read a Hank Green book next? Like,
yeah. Let us know
because we love the Green brothers.
Hank is an absolutely remarkable thing. And then the sequel. Does he have anything else?
I don't know. I feel like he should though, low-key.
Because I've read an absolutely remarkable thing, but I haven't read the sequel, and so I want to read the sequel, but I really want to reread ART because it's been years.
So it's like almost a decade, I think.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't just like read the sequel. I need to reread the first one. So we could always do that someday on the pod together, maybe.
True.
If he doesn't have anything new, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I would love it to just read like a standalone of his, but like I would reread.
Yeah, we could just read like an absolute remarkable thing, and then on our own we could read the sequel.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, we could do whatever, guys. Just let us know what you would want to see.
Yeah, or both. Or we could do another Hank. We could do Hank and another John. We've got many years of reading ahead of us. So
exactly.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to Read the Last Page. Our music and illustration were created by the talented Sage Timothy.
If you don't know our schedule yet, we host our book club episodes on the first Friday of each month. So for next month, we will be reading The Door of No Return by Kwame Alexander. That episode will be out on the first Friday of March, so be sure to pick up a copy and read it by then if you want to discuss it with us.
Before we get to the last page, though, we'll see you in 2 weeks for a catch-up episode where it's just besties talking. You can listen to us on your podcast platform of choice, or if you'd rather watch your podcast, you can find us on YouTube at Read the Last Page, and you can connect with us over email, Instagram, TikTok, Patreon, and Discord. Yes. For now, we want to say bye from B
and Dan.
Bye.